This conference will now be recorded.
In this section, we are going to discuss about web application, vulnerability scanner integration. So web application scanners basically identify, classify, and report on the potential security problems that you might have in your application code. So if your application is completely not secure, these scanners can help you analyze what are the vulnerabilities available or present in your application and can give you an idea how to proceed further in protecting those or protecting or mitigating against those specific vulnerabilities. So ASM basically can be integrated with these vulnerability scanners. You can integrate ASM with multiple app scanners, like for IBM app scan or TrustWave app scanner, Qualys, White Hat Sentinel, HP Web Inspect, ImmuniWeb. So like this, there are various app vulnerability scanners which you can integrate with your ASM. So generally, any web application scanner comprises of three main components. First is your crawler module, the attacker module, and then analysis module. The crawler module is just given a list of URLs. It retrieves the corresponding pages and by following all links, redirects to identify what all are reachable pages in your application, which all segments you have a input points to the application where you can fill up input just like a web form, which segment you can upload the files. So basically it tries to identify the various components of your application. Then the attacker module analyzes those URLs and their related inputs, tries to perform attacks. It generates values that basically reveal the vulnerabilities. It might try to inject a JavaScript, maybe for cross-site scripting testing, for SQL injection. So it basically performs various types of attacks on your application and sees whether your application is vulnerable or not. And based on the results that attacker module finds, analysis module creates a complete analysis of it and gives you output. Maybe let's say in a PDF file or XML file. So what ASM does is it gets the output from the web app scanner, and this results can be imported into ASM, and we can see what all components or what all vulnerabilities can be resolved or mitigated by ASM features, or which all are actually applicable to your ASM. So first of all, you have to define what scanner module you are going to use, and with respect to that, then you can import the results from that scanner module. So when it comes to resolving the vulnerabilities, ASM gives you the below options, or categorizes the vulnerabilities into following types. First is resolvable automatically. Second is resolvable manually. And third is not resolvable. In this vulnerability type, ASM can apply the actions to mitigate the vulnerability without any administrative intervention. You don't need to do anything. In this resolvable manually, the vulnerability can be mitigated, but again, you might require some changes in your security policy, which the administrator has to take care, or maybe do some changes with respect to your LTM objects, like creating I rule or creating a certificate. And if the vulnerability is not resolvable, it will show as not resolvable. The vulnerability cannot be mitigated by ASM. Now, when it comes to resolvable vulnerabilities, this also has different options. Like you can resolve and stage, you can resolve, you can ignore, or you can retest. So resolve and stage means it updates the security policy to protect against the vulnerability, but again puts the parameters in staging mode. So you have to select that option and enforce it. Then when you say update, resolve, it updates the security policy to completely protect against the vulnerability. And when you have option of ignore, this basically changes the ASM status of that selected vulnerability from pending to ignore. If at a later point of time you decide to protect against this vulnerability, you can just select that and cancel ignore. So maybe you know that that specific result is a false positive from the app scanner itself. So you can just select and click on ignore. And then retest is only applicable for one of the app scanner, which is white hat, sentinel. This will send the traffic to test protection against that vulnerability. So these all options you have with respect to resolvable vulnerabilities. Now, once you have already applied the changes, so ASM status after the mitigation shows as below. It would show as mitigated, which means that the vulnerability is resolved, or it would show as pending, which means the vulnerability is not resolved, but also not ignored. Or it can be mitigated in staging, which means that the vulnerability is resolved, but also the entity for which the action has been taken is placed into staging. And then you have ignored, which means that the vulnerability will not be subjected to mitigation. So now let's go ahead and perform some lab with respect to these vulnerabilities. So first of all, I'll just go ahead and create a security policy based on vulnerability assessment template. So I'll go to application security, security policies. I'll give it a name as lab 16 Qualys. And from the policy template section, I'll choose the template as vulnerability assessment baseline. Using this, I just go ahead and create the security policy. Now, let me go to vulnerability assessment and settings. So from here in the settings section, I have to define what is the tool that I'm going to use. So from the drop down, I'll choose these are the available options which can be integrated with ASM. So let me choose just Qualys. And then I'll go to vulnerabilities tab. In here, you have to import your assessment file, which you got from the vulnerability app scanner. So you just click on import. Select the result, open the file, and then click on import. So in here, you will see that the various vulnerabilities which have been detected across your application. So you can click any of these vulnerabilities. And once you select this, you will get the different URLs, what specific parameter is affected, and at present, what is the ASM status. So it is currently showing as pending. So with respect to these vulnerabilities, these are the actions that you can take. So let me just select one of this and just click on resolve. Resolve. So after resolving, it would show as ASM status is mitigated. Let me choose second one. It says as ASM status is mitigated. In here, I'll select as resolve and stage. Resolve and stage. So then after applying the mitigation, it says as ASM status as mitigated but currently in staging. Now, with respect to these changes that I have done, let me again go back to my security policy, parameters, parameter list. So in here, you will see that the parameter section, the created by option will be shown as the vulnerability app scanner name. So this way you can import the results from your app scanner, get it integrated with ASM and have the mitigations applied accordingly. So like this, you can create multiple security policies using different tools. So in here, if you plan to use a different tool, you just need to go to application security, vulnerability assessment, settings. Then this is the option that you want have to change. So since for this security policy, I've already selected it, I'm not getting option to change it. So you have to define it initially itself. So with this, we complete this section as well.